Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our virtual discussion on social responsibility and the metaverse. Today, we are having a treat. We are hearing from several product management leaders at Meta who are honored to represent women in product. Now, this community of women is key to building and fostering our inclusive culture and ensuring that diverse voices have a seat at every table and are reflected in our product experiences. We also have Meta Recruiting with us today behind the scenes, and they can help to answer any recruiting related questions you might have. So I would love to jump right in and have all of our panelists each introduce themselves. You can popcorn to each other, and then we'll come back around and have some discussion. Why don't we start with Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily. I lead the social impact team, which builds products to inspire and enable our community to make impact across key social issues, such as climate, health, equity, and civic. Previously, I led strategic partnerships and social good for Meta, where my team worked with the world's leading nonprofits to help raise funds and awareness for their organizations. And before I came to Meta, I was at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where I was a program officer for EdTech. And I worked at Arizona State University building online universities. And with that, I will pass it over to Aigerim.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. I'm Aigerim. I lead the avatars and identity team in the Reality Labs at Meta. So my team is building avatars and avatar marketplace to empower a new generation of creators, as well as helping create the underlying identity system for the metaverse. I've been at Meta for 7.5 years, and before taking on this role, I led product teams in ads, as well as a Facebook app like Identity Profile and Facebook Dating. And prior to joining Meta, I was a founder and CEO of a travel tech startup.
Nice.
And next one, passing on to Stephanie.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie, and I lead the TPM teams working on our wearables products within Reality Labs. So my team is responsible for driving development and delivery of both hardware and software across our devices for smart glasses, as well as other unreleased products. Similar to Aigerim, I've been at Meta for about 7 years, and prior to this role, I was leading various hardware and software TPM orgs at Meta. Prior to Meta, I was at Microsoft working on HoloLens, and then prior to that, I was shipping iPods, iPads, and various accessories at Apple. So I will pop it back over to Maxine.
Wow, what a varied and interesting, there's so many questions I have for all of you about the things you've done in the past and the things you're doing now. But let's get into some metaverse questions. Maybe I'll start with Aigerim first. So just like get us foundationally set, what does or how does Meta define the metaverse?
Yeah, it's a good question to start with. So the way I would think about the metaverse is that it's just the next generation of internet. We all know internet, we all use it every day. And so metaverse is evolution of where internet is going. And the step change is that you will feel like in the metaverse, you will feel like you're in the experience instead of looking at it. So today with the internet, you're looking at the screen and you're jumping between different websites or apps. And in the metaverse, you're going to be in the experience and interacting and seamlessly moving between different places. And it's also important to say that how Meta is defining metaverse and what we're doing is that we are not doing it on our own. We can't build the metaverse on our own. There's not going to be Meta's metaverse. There's going to be one metaverse that we have to build together with our partners, policymakers, creators, people around the world. It's going to be something that we all co-create together. It's not going to be just like something that one company or Meta on its own can do.
All right, so it sounds like it's a lot about how we will feel, that we have experiences now, but the feeling will be different when we are completely sort of immersed. Is that right?
You're immersed, exactly. You're embodied. You're going to be, and this is why we're working on avatars. So you're going to embody yourself in the metaverse, and you're going to walk around and talk to people and do things, work together, go to concerts, etc.
Okay, so I will have we'll be in a world.
Yes.
Not looking on, not looking at, we'll be in it.
Exactly.
All right. Look, even for those of us who are at tech companies, as I am at Meta, I should have introduced myself. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer at Meta. The metaverse is still such a new concept and thing that, pennies drop at different times. And you're like, oh, wow, I can do that. And then, as we talk about people being able to walk around and connect there and do things together, the question of responsibility is one that I think arises. And I want to ask Emily, perhaps. Emily, why should people trust Meta to build this responsibly? And then how do you define social responsibility? How does Meta define it?
I think the most important thing for people to know about this is something Aigerim just touched on. Just like we're not building the metaverse ourselves, we're not defining responsibility ourselves. This is going to be a partnership between tech companies like Meta, many other tech companies, creators, product managers, engineers, designers, people the world over who are defining the responsibility and are building responsibly. And one of the most important things is working with experts in this space. So, we spend a tremendous amount of time working with experts on important topics like well-being and equity to understand what the problems are and how we should think about this, as well as how we can apply the lessons that we've learned from more than a decade of working at Meta, but also how society has learned over more than 50 years of the internet existing. I mean, there's tremendous potential, but when we think about it, actually the internet is just still very early in its life. It's, younger than most people, in fact, alive on the planet. Well, maybe not most, but many people alive on the planet.
It's younger than me. I can certainly say that. I did not grow up with the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And most even people who grew up with the internet grew up with a very different experience than the one we have today, and certainly a different experience than the metaverse will be. And so, the most important thing for all of us, I think, is going to be working with experts, learning from people who are experts in these spaces, learning from our community, making sure that we're all thinking about this and working together and sharing as we grow. As we think about what that's going to mean at Meta and the role that we play in building the metaverse, we're certainly going to be learning from work that we have done previously. We'll continue, for example, to create experiences that allow people to connect and take action around causes that they care about. That's been very important on our platforms to date, and is something we're going to be building into the metaverse, particularly because that's so critical to people's identities. How you express yourself, the causes you care about, the people, organizations you support is a really important part of who you are and how you show up in your community. Imagine, today people will run virtual races to fundraise for causes they care about. Imagine being able to have virtual experiences that allow you to fundraise, or if you're not fundraising, to show your support for an organization through a benefit concert or a rally, or being able to show your support in another way through how you dress or other signaling is going to be really important to people. And we're really excited about all the opportunities that opens up.
Is that why you also have a big focus on getting people from different backgrounds, to getting a variety, a diversity of people involved, so that they can see themselves in it through avatars and other things, and then participate in this space? Is that related to the social responsibility mission as well?
It is, and I do think that one of the things that's going to be quite different about this version of the internet from prior versions is that we are designing with diversity in mind. So we have far more diverse groups of people who are building the metaverse, who are designing it, who are advising it, but we're also designing for all people from the start. It's one of the things that we think is most important about the metaverse at Meta, that we need to be designing for all people, and we need it to be accessible. We think about that in all different ways, from the pricing of devices and making sure that people can actually buy devices that give them access to the metaverse, and making sure that the metaverse will be accessible on whatever type of device you have, whether it's a headset or your phone or just a web browser. And we also are thinking about how do we create avatars that allow people from a really wide variety of backgrounds to see themselves represented, so that when they look on screen and people see them through whatever device they're using, they really feel like it's them and they feel like they can represent themselves.
Yeah. I know people are really excited too about the culture series, the Metaverse culture series, where we can get like so many different creators and community leaders to co-create and build experiences in Horizon Worlds. Or like one of the things I love is Ray-Ban Stories glasses, and how that allows me to be present when I go to my child's soccer game. We're also investing a lot in creators, right? Like the meta immersive learning we've invested millions of dollars, $150 million to help the next generation of creators, to get really diverse creators, to get high quality immersive experiences. I wonder, like, do you see that the creator piece as really key to having a metaverse which is inclusive and diverse and interesting for people to inhabit?
I mean, absolutely. These are literally the people who are creating the metaverse. And we have very early on set a principle of equity for the metaverse and put a tremendous amount of investment behind it, not just money, but also our own team's time and thinking and building this into our product roadmaps. And because these people will be creating the metaverse, and making sure that early on we invest to make sure that we have, not only that we have a diverse group of people who are creating it, but that other people who are thinking about entering the metaverse and are thinking about what their place will be can see and understand that the creators behind this environment are people who look like them, who act like them, who might actually be quite different from them, right? But they can actually see who's building it. And we wanted to make sure that we have really diverse representation across the teams that are building the metaverse, but also people who are creating worlds inside of it, who are going to be operating in this, so that people know from the get-go, this is for all people, and we mean it, and we're showing up across the board to support that.
I know how many pings I got when we did Meta Connect, and we first talked about the metaverse, and my avatar was floating through space with Mark Zuckerberg's and our chief product officer Boz's, and I had my Bantu knots, which is the way I have my hair knot now, and I got lots of pings saying, "Oh my gosh, so Black people made it to the metaverse, and Bantu knots are in the metaverse." And the excitement and the representation is really, really tangible. So that's great. And I know your team does a lot around that through social responsibility and equity as well. All right, Stephanie, let me bring you in. You work on so many different pieces of hardware. That's what I was excited about, everything you mentioned. What role will new devices play in the metaverse? And like, why do we need new ones?
Yeah, so I was bringing it back to both what Emily and Aigerim have talked about. The metaverse is really made up of a series of experiences with varying levels of immersion, really depending on your needs in that moment. And so these devices, we really need a whole portfolio of devices that really enable presence with people who are near and far, as well as the world that's around you. And again, like depending on your needs, you might need to be more immersed in that moment. Or you touched on Ray-Ban stories. If you're on the go, you still want to be connected to those around you, but really not miss out on being present in your current moment. So when we think about devices, it is really stitching together all of these different immersive experience of varying levels together. So, imagine a world in which you could teleport to be with a family member that's thousands of miles away for their birthday. In that case, you might want to be really present and immersed with them. Or you might want to be connected to some coworkers while you're on the go, in which case maybe Ray-Ban stories would be a better device to stay connected while part of this metaverse that we're imagining. So today, these experiences aren't fully connected and aren't fully possible yet, but this is what we're building towards. And then specifically on additional new devices, we talk about how the internet's pretty nascent today, and even our devices are still very nascent. So for you to feel immersed and to be connected, we want our devices to fall away, not feel like there's a cumbersome thing on your head or a device that you have to pull out that's kind of clunky. So we're really working on the future of AR glasses, which will really fall away, allow you to feel present in the moment without the limitations of the 2D screens or any of the other hardware that we have existing today.
Do you see different kinds of people gravitating towards different devices? So, there's some people who are like real techies. Like, is there like stuff they're going to want? And then you have like other people like me where I'm like, I'm just so happy I can see the game and not have to look away to get my phone because I can be in it through these glasses on my head. How does that range look depending on who the person is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Emily touched on this earlier too, which is we want the metaverse to feel equitable for everybody. And it's designed for people first. And so to your point, Maxine, of having devices that are really tailored to different people's and their preferences, for example, like today, a tech like VR is more geared towards the tech enthusiast audience. Granted, that's not where we want to stop, and we want it to really feel like anybody and everybody, even if they're not a gamer, if they're not really into VR, that they would still want to use the device. But that's why we are investing in things like Ray-Ban Stories, AR glasses, and other wearable products, because we're trying to create this ecosystem of our devices all operating pretty seamlessly together to enable everybody in a way that feels authentic and personal to them to have a portal into the metaverse. So drawing upon the experience that I was talking about earlier, and even the Reconnect thing that you were in earlier last year, which is people might be around a round table in VR, but we want to enable people who might be on the go with their Ray-Ban Stories to port in and call in and also be present with those. And so that's what we're really aiming for when we build our portfolio of devices, is to enable different experiences of different levels of immersion for what fits and feels right for people.
There's something that's coming to mind, and maybe I'll ask it to all of you later on. So I'm going to stick a pin on this issue of people wanting to port in. Let me ask you, and maybe Aigerim, I go to you, and then Stephanie, please chime in afterwards. What does it mean? You kind of touched on this a bit, for the metaverse to be inclusive.
Yeah, it's so important, and we're having a lot of these conversations today from the beginning. It's because we're building the metaverse is going to be something that we're building for everyone, right? If it is an evolution of internet, it is everyone who's using internet today, and more people who will be joining in years to come. And so it's really, really important that we're building something that's truly inclusive of everyone who will be participating, and something I think Emily touched on earlier today. And so, for example, what my team is thinking a lot about is, with avatars and identity, that is the underlying kind of foundation for inclusivity, because people have such a connection to their avatar, right? It's how you're embodied, how you're showing up in these experiences, how other people see you, how other people perceive you, right? So it's going to be really at the heart of it. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about it, about inclusivity specifically, from the beginning. So, for example, we recently launched these 3D avatars on Facebook and Instagram Direct, Messenger. And one of the things we've done, actually spend some time with different organizations getting feedback on the experience and the options we're offering. We partnered with United Spinal Association's Tech Access Program, who provided us feedback and insights on the lived experiences of people with disabilities. And so some of the changes, things we introduced in this launch reflected some of that feedback. We introduced cochlear implants, over-the-ear hearing aids. We introduced wheelchairs in this 3D avatar launch, because we want to make sure that people do have an opportunity to really feel like they're being represented through their avatars. But of course, it's still early days. I mean, we just had this first kind of major launch, and there's so much more still to do. And we'll be partnering with a lot of different organizations, continue to get feedback from people, from creators, from organizations, to make sure that we're building truly for everyone.
Are there really 1 quintillion combinations that your avatar can look like now?
Yes, there are 1 quintillion combinations of different ways your avatar could look like, or how you can create it. Like there are billions of people in the world, and so we want to make sure we have all the options.
Quintillion of anything.
Yes.
And yet you say there's much more to go.
Oh, there's so much more we're just, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so what's the final number? Like, I don't know, what's like higher than quintillion?
I actually don't know. Many quintillions.
Many quintillions, okay. Have you anything to add to what does it mean for the metaverse to be inclusive?
Yeah, so I touched on when you're in the experience, when you see it, we want people to be able to represent themselves in certain ways. But when we think about designing devices, we are really trying to take a people first approach to building and designing the hardware products that we have, right? So when I thought about, and when we think about how we're building these AR glasses of the future, we can't just focus on like, what technology do we need to cram into these glasses? We really need to think about who's going to be wearing these glasses, Do they fit men's heads, women's heads, different we call IPD distances, and really make sure that our products are appealing to as many people, appealing and fitting to as many people as possible from a fashion, form, and cost perspective versus just a really tech forward type of device. And because we are building the full stack, both hardware through software, we really have a lot of control over how inclusive we can make our devices. And it's a great responsibility that we have and that we're incorporating into our design process. So I would say that's a lot of it from the devices side. And again, from the experiences side, we're working on lots of different ways to unblock access to our tools and platforms. We talked about Horizon Worlds. We also have Spark creators from over 190 different countries. And so we're really trying to make sure that it's not just Meta who's creating the metaverse, but we're pulling in everybody who can really contribute and be part of this entire immersive experience.
The question that I had in mind that I said I wanted to kind of ask all of you was, how do you address the maybe assumption that we think everybody just wants to be in a headset or in a piece of hardware all the time? People say, I just want to be in real life with people. Tell me, are you trying for people not to be in real life with people anymore? How do you address that?
Well, I think maybe I can start. I don't define it like real life versus not real life. It's really, it's physical versus digital. And I actually think what we're trying to build a lot of times is the extension of the physical world. So to your point, I mean, Ray-Ban store is a good example where you're actually able to be present in the moment. I was wearing Ray-Bans when I went skiing with my 3.5-year-old. And so I was able to be in the moment when he the first time went down the bunny slope and just record that video, right? And I was I was not trying to take out my phone and be all awkward and fall over or not be able to catch him. So it's just one example. But I really think thinking about the metaverse as extension to an enhancement of the physical world versus something that's replacing it.
Okay. Anybody else have a reaction to that?
I mean, I think Aigerim's point about being able to be more present as a result of the metaverse in a physical setting, I think is really incredible. There's one version that allows you to be present with people and experiences you wouldn't otherwise have access to. I can get on my portal and call my dad and my sister who live in Louisville and in New York and see them, and we feel closer because the experience is much better and we can play together. But I also have small children, right? Being able to go to the beach with them or go to their sporting events and not be the person with the phone in front of their face just because I want to capture a great video and send to their grandparents actually makes me feel more present and connected with the people in my life who I am with. And I think that that's going to be one of the great benefits as we actually build an environment that is designed to enhance presence and is designed to make people feel and be more connected. The devices go away, and so we'll actually be less concerned about what's on our faces or in front of our faces and more concerned about what are we actually doing with people and how much do we enjoy this experience.
And actually, to add to that, even workrooms, so that is you're in the VR, right? You're in the headset, but that's been such an incredible experience for me. A lot of our meetings now are in workrooms for my team, and you do feel like you're right there around, sitting around the table, having a discussion with your teammates. And many of our teammates now, half of my team, I think, is going to be remote starting this year, and so we're not going to be able to be physically all in the office. And that's actually great because people can live where they want and do things that they want. And we're still able to be there virtually together and have the conversation, go to the whiteboard and, have a discussion that you would have in the, physically in the office, but now we can do it from anywhere. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that is such a key value add, right? Is that I come from a small place where I'm an immigrant in another place. A lot of the people I love, people I want to be with, are not where I currently live. And being able to feel closer to them, to have experiences with them when I can't physically be with them, right? I can't get on a plane every day and go be with them. But being able to have that elevated experience where I can feel closer is so amazing. But that's where, for me, it's not the replacement of the being together. It's the enhancement of the experience when you're not physically together. And as you said, there are some experiences where you are physically together, and yet you can have an enhanced feeling of presence with the assistance of this technology. So yeah, I definitely see them as working together to give us all like a better quality of life. It's amazing that we can do that. All right. Another question I want to ask everybody. We often talk about what we build. We've just been talking about that. But it's also really important who is building, right? Who has a seat at the table? So, for instance, today's conversation may be very unusual for people because it's a whole panel of women in product, right? And it's phenomenal that at Meta, we have all of these women product leads. What is our plan to ensure that there is diverse representation as we build the metaverse?
I can go first in terms of when we think about how we recruit for our teams and how we're developing talent. I think it's Emily, Aigerim, and you, Maxine, and I are all testaments to how our leadership has invested in us and the responsibility that we have to make sure that we are carrying that forward and really looking at when we are bringing in people, that we're looking at people with very diverse backgrounds. They don't necessarily have to have worked in tech. It is that, like, are they thinking about products first? Are they thinking about user experiences? And so a lot of times I think there's a stigma of, oh, tech companies, I don't have an engineering degree, should I even apply? And my answer always is yes, because there are so many different perspectives that we really want to be bringing to the table as we invent this thing called the metaverse that none of us have ever worked on before. And so it's really important that we are looking at having a really wide top of funnel when we recruit, as well as when we're developing talent from within our teams.
Yeah, and then to add to that, to a point of not having technical background, I didn't study computer science in undergrad, which I think a lot of people think that like is a requirement for path to like product career, and it really is the different experiences we have and bringing that to the table, and almost like the thing that makes you different is actually your advantage, right? Something that sets you apart and that you can bring to the table. So I think it's really important. I think like to my earlier point around remote work, I actually think being able to open up more jobs and opportunities for people to apply who do not live in Silicon Valley or in tech hubs and live in other places, to be able to join our teams, to be able to help us be part of it, build the metaverse together is really important. So for example, my team is looking to hire about half of our team remotely this year. I think we're just only going to continue to grow, and I'm really excited about that trend. And I think it's going to bring us more diverse pool of candidates over time. And so if you're watching this and you're remote, please do apply, or if you're not remote too, please do apply and come talk to us, because I do think it's just a great opportunity for us to build diverse teams.
Can you give us a quick snapshot, because I think it may be interesting to the people viewing this, about how you ended up in product if you didn't study anything tech related? Or
yeah, I studied finance in undergrad, and then I did Teach for America, and I did investment banking. Yeah, so first investment and then Teach for America, and then I started a travel tech company, and just like learned on the job. I had no idea. Like I literally had to like Google what product manager does when someone told me I need to hire my first product manager for my startup. But you just learn, right? You learn how to work with different folks. You learn how to build product, and with time, with experience, you kind of hone in that skill. And so that was my experience. And I think everyone, and there's like former designers, there were former business folks, partnership marketing, and there's so many people from different walks of life who end up in product.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Anybody else on this particular question before I move on to the other one?
Well, I would just add, at the company level, we are completely committed to building a diverse and equitable organization, especially with representation in leadership roles. So we talked a lot about what do we look for at the individual level, and how do we look for diverse groups of people and recognize individual experience and needs. But also, we have a huge initiative at the Meta company level to support diversity in leadership, to make sure that we're actually designing our recruiting and promotion processes with fairness and equity in mind. So for example, we use a diverse slate approach to fill open roles that actually requires you to interview a diverse group of candidates before making a hire. It comes from other industries. Many industries have applied this, and there's a lot of research showing that this results in greater diversity in hiring. We've applied that, and it's fantastic because it really just pushes everyone to make sure that they're not checking all the boxes, that they're looking for a diverse candidate pool every single time. It's more work, but I find that it is work that is well worthwhile because you end up with people you would never otherwise have thought of. And most importantly, it creates a system where everyone is incentivized then to not only look for diverse talent, but to really encourage people and make sure that they know when they're thinking about coming to work at a place like Meta, that not only are they encouraged to apply, but they would be welcomed and valued to work here. You know, as someone who when people come from underrepresented groups of any form, that, you know, you often think, look, I don't know if I'm going to fit in a place like this. Am I going to succeed? Do they really want me? And I think having the diverse slate approach, having this very open and serious commitment to diversity across the company, and particularly in leadership roles, and then enacting policies like remote work and embracing that people should be able to live where they want to, opening up our hiring pools to make sure we're getting the best talent across the world, no matter who people are, where they live, you know, not constraining ourselves and not constraining people to any circumstances, I think is something that really sets Meta apart, and also, you know, is going to help us get the best people, because we need all of them if we're going to build this.
You know, I want to say one caveat, which I do think sets us apart, which is how we apply that diverse slate approach. Because it is possible that people could say, okay, we're doing diverse slate, but there's sort of just checking the boxes, right? They kind of, okay, yeah, I've given you an underrepresented person. Here's a person of color, but not actually doing the work to make sure that you're finding good candidate, that you're not just recycling, because that's the other pitfall, is you could end up with like, oh wait, we've seen this person 6 times. Oh, right, because you're just trying to like fit, like say you did diverse slate by like offering somebody, but you're not actually looking. And if you do it properly, where you are in fact looking for different people who meet the requirements, you're not recycling, you're putting them on the loop, everybody is actually being given a fair chance. Because the other criticism is that you could have this slate, but it could not change anything about who you hire, right? What we have seen is that having the slates actually has changed who we hire. And we have done the analysis every which way. And I can say, like, for my team, the people analytics team, looking at when it's different combinations. How long does it take to fill? Does it add any time? All of the answers are, when you do this thing properly, you get more diversity in your hires, and it doesn't slow you down. Like, that's the top line, right? And so doing it properly also matters.
Yeah, and Maxine, I will say, I mean, you've been such an amazing partner in this. It's really making sure you have people who are qualified and diverse, that pool. Mm-hmm. It's not that you have qualified people or you have a diverse pool, or you've just got, you know, someone in who you put up for a bunch of roles. It's like, when we do the diverse slate approach, we look for people who are just excellent across the board. They're mm-hmm. phenomenal leaders. They're great at their function, and we have diversity within that group. Mm-hmm. And it's brought in people who, you know, we just wouldn't have otherwise had that type of exposure to. It's widened our hiring pools, and we just have incredible people. I mean, the fact that we have 4 women on this panel, as you said, is, you know, often surprising to people outside, but it's not that unusual of an experience inside. You know, these are the people who are leading some of the most critical functions at the company. And it's, you know, representative of the experiences that we have working here.
Yeah, it's good. And it's, in the end of the day, it makes it just a much more interesting place to work too. All right, I want to ask one more question before I go to the Q&A, which is, again, one that as a pleb is really interesting for me, which is, how will the Metaverse help unlock new economic opportunities, right? We've been talking about your jobs. There are other people looking to see, like, how can they, you know, make some cash in that Metaverse? Like, how can people have economic opportunity for individuals and communities through the Metaverse?
Yeah, I can start with some thoughts here, because I think what we're seeing with avatars and the marketplace is a good example more broadly, not just, you know, not within the Meta's experience, but more broadly what's happening in the industry, that there are already people who are creators who are making a living by working on fashion for avatars and creating businesses and even entire like studios and have like employees and really truly making a living off of this. And this is just the first kind of example. I do think a lot of the opportunities for people to participate in the metaverse, to build the businesses, to build the living, are just things we haven't even thought about. I mean, there's only that much, and that's why I talk about the metaverse. It's not something we're going to build on our own as a company or any single company. It's going to be something that's going to take everyone, and people are going to come in and come up with new ideas and things that we haven't even thought about. So I think creators are going to be a huge part of this. I think businesses and small businesses are going to be a huge part of it. I think one day we're going to have jobs that are only available in the metaverse, and perhaps there's there are going to be all these experiences and things that we'll be building that will unlock and they will unlock access to people from anywhere in the world to be able to make a living. And so that's what I'm excited about. The marketplace and kind of a lot of the user generated content is going to be a first step. But it's kind of like with every new technology, you kind of take the thing that already exists and kind of think about how it's going to evolve in this next generation. But the true next unlock is going to be things that probably someone is maybe thinking about somewhere far in the faraway land right now. That will become a reality.
I often said about all of the things that this company has built, that we have learned so much more from how people have used it than we could have thought. It's like there is more diversity out there in the world than we have. As diverse as a company as we've become, the world is still always going to be much more diverse. And there's going to be ways in which people use these products. So we're like, whoa, okay. Because now you've unlocked their creativity, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a constant learning process given the products that we build, which are for people. And those people then apply their minds and their needs and their interests and their skills and their creativity, and they come up with things that we couldn't have imagined. But at this point, is it fair to say, again, just to break it down so we can understand that, like, there are two ways. That's how I'm thinking about it. There are two ways to make money, to have economic opportunity now in the metaverse. One is to build things that are bought and sold by other people in the metaverse. So if I think that it's like a job now or a business to build worlds for people. Is that right?
Right. Yes, there are creators who build worlds.
And if somebody else is going to pay them to build a world that other person then owns, yes? Like I pay somebody to build a house for me.
Yes, that's right.
And then the other way is that you use the metaverse and the existence of all these different people to sell things to them in real life, but you're using the metaverse as the connection point. So like if I'm an artist sitting in Denver, I might be able to sell something to somebody in the Philippines who sees my art in an art studio I've built in the metaverse. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. And the cool thing is, like, you could maybe also get it in physical form as well as in digital. So like you put it in your this art piece in your house in the metaverse, and also like maybe you'll get it. You can also purchase the physical kind of companion to this virtual product. So those and not just Denver to Philippines, but Philippines to Denver, right? And vice versa. There's like so much. I think it's really going to be an equalizer of opportunity. But those are that's right. Those are two kind of very concrete ways that in which people can start making a living.
Okay. It's amazing. I had a conversation recently with some artists who were just raving about how they've been able to just do so much better since this technology, because they have access now both to materials that they didn't have before in the way you can create in the metaverse, in Horizon Worlds they're talking about specifically, and then access to customers that they wouldn't have ordinarily met in their physical location. So it really has just opened up a whole set of opportunities. And I'm really excited about the fact that we are, again, from the beginning, encouraging and supporting diverse creators to get in there, so that this opportunity is not only incurring to one set of people, but a diverse range of people will have the possibilities that exist and be able to take the advantages from them. Well, we are at time, and I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I thought this was a really, really interesting panel, and I know I learned a lot, and I hope that those viewing did as well. So keep on doing what you're doing. You're building amazing things, and we are all the beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting.
Dear daughter, thank you for making me a mom.
No matter how crazy the world seemed, you gave us hope.
You and the other girls born today will be the difference in tomorrow that women before us stood for, fought for, and craved. I'm so proud of you for so many reasons. You're the type of girl who has the guts to try new things.
You can be anything you want through imagination, hard work, and discipline. You can be an astronaut or a pilot. You can be a paleontologist or a scientist. You can be all these things and more.
We give you the tools, but how you live your life will be your choice.
And that kind of patience, that kind of dedication to curiosity and to craft, that will take you further in life than even I can imagine.
I would love for you to go into the world and do well. But more importantly, I'd love for you to go into the world and do good.
Always find a way to include everyone, the loud, the quiet, the timid, and shy.
And as you grow and face times of uncertainty or learning or joy or confusion, I hope you will take deep breaths and repeat after me. You are safe and you are loved.